In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a spaceship using an online tool called Janvas that has tools that are very similar to the ones that you would find in Adobe Illustrator. These are vector illustration tools. And the way that I got to Janvas, the way I found it, is by going to www.janvas.com. So here's my icon. They have an app that you can add to Google Chrome, the Chrome browser, and that's what I did. I'm going to click on my app, and all it does is take me to their web page, their web application. And I assume this is written in Java. I'm not really sure, but it has a lot of the tools that I might recognize from an application like Adobe Illustrator. Here's what I'm going to do. Go over the tools. Objects selection, point selection. I'm not sure what that is if it doesn't give me a tooltip, but it will allow me to move the screen around. Zoom. And here's our good friend, the pen tool. We're going to focus on the pen tool and the shapes tool that has rectangles and lines and ellipses. And we're going to use those to create a spaceship. So I'm going to choose the ellipse tool and draw an ellipse. And choose the ellipse tool again and draw another ellipse that will serve as the canopy for the spaceship. I'm then going to choose the points selection tool, and I'll see that I can select points and I can grab the handles for those points to adjust the Bezier curves. Okay, I'm going to undo that because it's not exactly what I want to do. Let's look at what the pen tool options, or what do they call it, a path tool, a path something. It's a path tool to them. I call it the pen tool. It looks like a fountain pen. They have some other tools that you can use here. If you want to subtract a point or add a point, subtract, add, and this tool apparently lets you grab the curves as well. But I don't really like it because it grabs both of the handles at the same time. So let's go back to this point selection tool. I'm going to grab this point and move it up a little bit. Okay, and the next thing I can do is grab another point and I can move it around, and that's not what I want either. So let's go back to this point and let's make it stretch out a little bit more. So that I get something that looks like that. And there's a canopy. Looks more like a sombrero than anything. I'm going to move it up a little bit. So there's the top of my spaceship and a canopy. I'm going to click on the spaceship itself, and over on the right in the properties area down at the bottom there's this little tile, and the bottom one is the line fill and the top one is the shape fill, and I'm going to fill it with red. There we go. And then I'm going to click to select the top, the canopy, and I'm going to click on the shape fill and choose a bluish color. And check this out. This is kind of cool. I'm going to make it a little bit transparent so that I can see through it, because, you know, if it was glass, you'd be able to see through it. Makes sense to me. And there we go. Spaceship canopy. Nothing fancy. We can drag to select. Just drag the bounding box around all the objects, select them, move them around. The next thing I'm going to do is make my little claw for my spaceship, and I'm going to use, it disappeared, the pen tool. And one of the things that I found useful is to snap the grid to 5 or 10 pixel increments. I'm not really sure what that is. I'm going to assume that it's pixels. And the snap range, when you get near a snap point, what's the range? How far away do you have to be from a snap point to snap to that point? I'm going to put it up at 7. We're going to see how that works. So on my empty space out here, because I could not seem to find a grid, I don't think there is a grid that you can see. If there is, I could not find it. I even consulted the help online, which was pretty good, but no grid. I'm just going to click points that seem to be fairly uniform. And I'm going to make a claw. And I like this pen tool because it allows you to grab these handles and stretch them to get the nice curve that you want. There we go. And here's my last point. Okay, there's a claw. Now it may not be perfect. What I can do is use this points selection tool, grab a point, and I can move that point around if I don't like exactly where I placed it. I'm fairly satisfied with this result. I'm going to click the claw, click the color fill tile, choose black, and with the claw selected one more time, if I move on to the diagonal corners, I'll see that I can resize or rescale the image. And the key here, like a lot of applications, is to hold Shift down while I'm resizing it, which will force a proportional resizing. In other words, the width and height will not, they'll be in the same proportion that they are, so I won't be squishing or stretching my image. My image is, my claw is in front of the spaceship, so I can right click it. And I don't see the option to arrange or move this shape to the back. So I started looking up here on the menu, the tools menu, and looky there, it looks like I can maybe move shapes down. And that's indeed what it does. So I've moved this shape to the back behind the other objects. Now I'm going to add my little landers. And again, if I hold Shift, I can get a nice uniform circle. I'm going to choose the rectangle and draw the little legs. And just using the arrow keys, move it over a few pixels at a time. Choose the selection tool, select both objects, group them by right-clicking on them. Come on. I guess it did group. Good. They are grouped. And I don't like the size of them, so I'm going to resize by holding this Shift. That seems adequate. I'm going to move this lander up, and underneath I can rotate. You see there's a little tool that allows me to rotate. Now I'm going to copy and then paste. That's Control C, Control V, and add my little lander to the back here. Control C, Control V, copy, paste, and make one more right about there. And all three of these shapes are in the front. So I grab them 1, 2, 3 by holding Shift and selecting them, and I move them to the back. And there's my little spaceship.